Out a few last-minute technical issues before we get more details from the police. Siobhan Robbins is our Europe correspondent. She's monitoring events there for us. Siobhan, we've heard in the last hour that somebody has been detained in connection with this attack.
That's right, Jonathan. So we're hoping to hear an update as soon as those officials start talking. But what they've told us so far is that during a search, a person was detained, they said, who they're checking whether they're connected to the crime. And at the same time, they say that searches and other police measures are ongoing. So it seems like they're trying to work out whether this person was the attacker, whether this person knew the attacker, whether they're a witness. It's just not clear at the moment. There hasn't been any indication that the manhunt, which they've said was large, has stopped. So that's the kind of information we'll be hoping to glean from these officials once they start giving their briefing. But just to remind people of what happened, it was a festival here and around this city of Solingen in West Germany last night around 9:30 when a man started indiscriminately attacking people in the crowd with a knife. He injured at least 8 people, 5 of them in a severe condition. 3 people were killed, and then he seems to have simply disappeared. And police have been going around the streets today talking to local people here, asking them if they've got any video, any photos, anything from the night that might help them to build up a picture of what's happened, because there's been very limited information that's been released by the authorities so far. So they say they don't know what the motive was behind this attack. They believe that the person was acting alone. However, they also have suggested that there was some sort of planning, saying that the people who were attacked were stabbed in the neck. And that really is most of the information that we've got. They say that the attacker is a man. So really what they've been doing today is not just this manhunt, but also going round reassuring people in this city, because of course 160,000 people live here. Around 15 to 20,000 people were at that festival last night. And some people, I'm sure, are waking up today and thinking, am I safe? And so police are going round trying to make sure that everyone's calm, and I must say they are calm, trying to offer reassurance at the same time as trying to gather information. And behind me, as I said, is part of the crime scene where they're continuing to gather access. But you can hear more from the officers now.
Anlass ein sehr schlimmer ist. Wir sind heute hier zusammengekommen, um Sie mit weiteren Informationen zu den Vorkommnissen, die sich
in order to give you more information about the horrendous events in Solingen last night. We would like to give you information regarding the police operation, regarding the current status of the investigation, and also in order to hear an assessment of the Prosecutor General. The Mayor, Mr. Kurzbach, was supposed to be here. He sends his apologies because he is otherwise detained at the moment. I would like to present to you the speakers. We would like to welcome the President of the Police in Wuppertal, Mr. Röhrl. He will make some introductory remarks. After that, we then hear from Mr. Fleist, Mr. Thorsten Fleist from the police force in Düsseldorf. He led the operation last night during the acute phase after the offense was committed. He will talk about the police operation, and then we will have Mr. Kaspers, who is in charge of anti-terrorism for North Rhine-Westphalia, and he will give you an initial legal assessment. There will be a possibility to get some remarks afterwards as well. And please let us know afterwards, and then we can talk with the various speakers in various corners of the room, because we don't have that much time available. The floor is yours, Mr. Röhrl. Thank you very much, Mr. Fiebig. Ladies and gentlemen, last night a peaceful festival on the occasion of the 650th birthday of the city of Solingen led to horrendous event. People lost their lives, some were seriously injured. As all the citizens of Solingen, I feel very much affected by what happened yesterday. My sympathies go to all the people that have been affected, and I wish everybody my very best. The police force Düsseldorf is in charge, and we in Wuppertal would like to thank Düsseldorf for the police operation. The police is doing everything possible in order to investigate and detect what has been done yesterday. As the police president of Solingen, I would like to thank all the rescue teams. I would like to thank everybody who has helped over the last hours here in Solingen. Thank you very much, Mr. Röhl. The floor is with you, Mr. Fleiss. My name is Thorsten Fleiss. I was the leading police officer overnight. Obviously, investigations continue. Cologne has taken over at the moment. Our thoughts of the police force in Wuppertal, of the police force in Düsseldorf, go out to the dead, the injured, and we wish everybody the very best. People have been injured. They have suffered physical injuries and mental injuries. I would like to talk about the police operation at 21:37. Various emergency calls were received in Wuppertal. We had the Festival of Diversity on the occasion of the 650th anniversary of the city of Solingen. A male perpetrator had started stabbing people at the festival. It happened at the stage which was set up at Frohnhof, the market square in North Rhine-Westphalia. The police force Düsseldorf became active. Initially, it was considered to be a rampage. At 21:59, we took over and we pulled forces from across the federal state. The police staff pulled together forces from across North Rhine-Westphalia, and we keep investigating and detecting. We are searching properties. We are looking right across North Rhine-Westphalia. We've also involved the federal police, and we're looking in other federal states. What we know at the moment is that, unfortunately, 3 people have lost their lives. A man of 67 years old, a man of 56 years old, and a woman of 56 years old. 8 people have been injured and are currently treated in hospital. 4 of whom are seriously injured. Many other people have suffered mental stress, and a great deal of damage has been caused. In the early hours of the morning, we detained a 15-year-old at the moment, we are looking into the connection to the incident. At the moment, we assume it is one perpetrator, but we are following all leads. As already mentioned, all the various police units in North Rhine-Westphalia are involved, and we have also involved the federal police force. It is a huge challenge at the moment to look at the various witness statements and the various pieces of information in order to get an overall picture. And as soon as we have further details, we will report on those. At the moment, we would like to call on all the people out there to pass on any information that you have. Please use the information portal for North Rhine-Westphalia. Please send us all the pictures, all the video materials. That is much better than sharing it in social media, because that is not really helpful at the moment. And I would like to ask you to refrain from speculations. At the moment, we are carrying out detailed investigations, and we hope to come to further results. Obviously, we are looking at security in North Rhine-Westphalia. At the moment, we are increasing police presence. All the colleagues have been sensitized, and we look obviously at all the festivals taking place at the moment. Looking at the legal assessment, the general prosecutor will comment on that, and I would like to pass on the floor. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Kaspers. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would also like to convey my sympathies to the people concerned and everybody who has been injured. I hope that you recover very soon. The Central Unit for Terrorism that I'm head of has taken over the investigation last night. Currently, there are investigations based on suspected murder and serious physical harm in 8 cases. At the moment, we do not have a perpetrator, we don't have a suspect. As far as we know at the moment, we don't have any motives yet, but obviously we cannot rule out terrorist motives. Some of the media have reported that a 15-year-old has been detained. At the moment, he is only been charged with not reporting an imminent crime. The perpetrator was supposed to have talked to this youngster about the fact that he was intending on doing something. That has not been reported. We can't give you any further information yet. We are in contact with the General Prosecutor for the Federal Republic of Germany. And should we get more information regarding a terrorist attack, then the General Prosecutor for the Federal Republic of Germany will take over. We have a phone number 0800 001 2022 0800 001 2022. We have set up a hotline. Please get in touch. This portal is also to provide help for the people concerned. That's all for the moment. Thank you very much, Mr. Kaspers. Now you have the opportunity to ask questions. Please, when you ask a first question, give your name and tell us who you're working for. And please address your question to individual members of the panel, or just give us a general question, and then we pass on the question to the right person up here. Let me start with the lady in front. No microphone. The interpreter apologizes.
Well,
at the moment, we cannot tell you where we are carrying out searches. Obviously, we are following various leads at the moment, and the situation changes minute by minute. Yes, please. Unfortunately, the questions in the room are not audible.
Also ich kenne die Detailbeschreibung der Bild kenne ich aktuell nicht.
I don't know the details that the newspaper Bild has reported. We cannot give any detailed information to the public at the moment regarding any descriptions of any potential suspects.
In Absprache mit der Staatsanwaltschaft können wir keine weiteren
Angaben zu den 15-Jährigen machen. With the public prosecutor, we cannot give you any further details on that 15-year-old. I also have a question regarding the 15-year-old. You said that at the moment he has allegedly not reported that an offence might be committed. Do we have any further details? I do not really want to comment on any of the details, but obviously what we need to know is whether the offence was prepared by two people or only one. Some witnesses are saying that two people have talked to one another before the offence was committed. I do not know this witness statement. So you don't know the woman that had reported the youngster? How can that be that you don't know the witnesses? Well, I don't know any witnesses that would have seen two people committing the offence, and the female witness that you are talking about has reported that she observed two people talking before the offence. Regarding the knife that was used, some said that the knife was found under one of the victims. Now we've also heard that a knife was found later on. Could you please let us know whether we are talking about one or two knives that were used? Well, the offence was very brutal. It was complex. Obviously, we are investigating at the moment. We have cordoned off a large area, and we also searching other areas. We have found various knives that we will have a closer look at, and then we can see which knife or which knives can be linked to the events last night. At the moment, I cannot confirm that there's only one knife connected to the offence committed. I am Leni Party. Do we have any images of the suspect, of the alleged perpetrator?
I
mentioned that we have a portal and various images and videos have been sent, and obviously we are analyzing all the images and all the videos. At the moment, we cannot publish an image of the alleged perpetrator, so at the moment my answer to your question is no.
Martin Korte, Westfalen-Post.
Martin Kortes. Do we know anything about the injured victims and how they're doing?
Tatsächlich gehen wir dort im Moment noch von
the moment, we know we have various people that are seriously injured. We are relying on the hospital personnel. We cannot give you any further information because that is part of data protection laws, but I know that there are several people that are seriously injured. I would like to ask about when the suspect was detained. Are you talking about a conversation between the 15-year-old and the alleged perpetrator? And you are saying that at the moment you cannot provide any images because at the moment you got too many images and you're not quite sure yet. What at the moment we don't have enough details in order to accuse the youngster. We have heard that there have been conversations between somebody and a 15-year-old, but the witness to the conversation is not a witness to the offense being committed, so there's not a clear link. The conversation took place very shortly before the offense was committed. As far as the description of the perpetrator is concerned, we can only issue a description when we do have such a description. The assumption that a certain person might be the perpetrator is not enough to publish an image.
Maria Mast von Zeit Online.
Maria Mast, Zeit Online. I would like to hear more about the knife. The knives, was it a flick knife? How long was the blade? And you said that there's an assumption it might have been a terrorist attack. Perhaps you could give some more details on that. Well, we have secured evidence, so I cannot give you any information. We need to have a closer look at all the evidence that we have gathered, and at the moment we cannot assign one knife to the offense. The assumption that it might be a terrorist attack goes back to the fact that we don't have any other motive. The victims were not in a relation, were not in relations with each other, so it seems to be completely at random, and that leads us to assume it might be a terrorist motivation. Has there been any video surveillance? Have you got any footage? I'm not aware of the fact that there was a ban on carrying any weapons, and during the event there were no police cameras in use. No video surveillance. Stephanie Ball for the Stern. 2 questions. You talked about a 15-year-old, so you seem to have one or several witnesses that heard this conversation. Have they recorded that conversation? And are there any explanations how the perpetrator managed to flee rather than the police being able to detain the perpetrator there and then? Mr. Kaspers and then Mr. Fleiss, perhaps? There are 2 female witnesses who, before the events, have heard a conversation, and after the offense they got in touch and let us know what they heard. So they heard it and then told you what they heard, so there's no recording of it. Thank you very much. The police in North Rhine-Westphalia usually looks after these events based on the assumed risk. It was supposed to be a festival of diversity. It was supposed to be a nice, peaceful occasion. Of course, we had police officers on site, but obviously there were various thousands of visitors. And obviously, after the offense, it was very difficult to try and get hold of a person among the crowd, particularly when you don't really have a description of the alleged perpetrator. The police was on site very quickly, I can confirm that, and the entire state was alarmed very quickly, and the police force Wuppertal was very quick to be on site. We heard that the perpetrator tried to aim for the neck. Do we have various witness statements that confirm that? According to what we know now, and looking at video material and images, it seems that the perpetrator was aiming for the neck, targeting the neck. You said earlier 4 people are seriously injured. How serious are the injuries? Are their lives in danger? And are you thinking about perhaps banning weapons when it comes to events of this type, future events of this type? Yes, we have people that are very seriously injured. Obviously, they're being looked after by hospital staff. We hope that they will survive, but obviously we don't know for sure. And we heard that 4 are very seriously injured, 2 seriously injured, and 2 have minor injuries. And
dann der Kollege in Grün. Ach, der Herr Entschuldigung.
Ja, wir haben im Vorfeld des Festes keinen Hinweis auf irgendeine Gefährdung.
Are investigations related to 8 times attempted murder. Well, there was no reason to have a weapon ban for Solingen or have video surveillance, but after such tragic events, obviously we need to look into the future and we need to think what we should do in future, particularly if we can assume that during these kind of festivals, there will be some abstract danger, and we will obviously be thinking along these lines in future.
Thomas Kraus von Aktuelle Einsätze im Raum
Thomas
Köln.
Kraus,
Ich wollte wahrscheinlich an Herrn
Cologne.
gerichtet fragen,
Question to Mr. Fleiss.
zum Beispiel die GSG 9 im Einsatz war
Is
oder im
the
Einsatz jetzt
federal
ist,
police involved, the GSG 9, for example, the special unit? Well, the federal police is also involved. Obviously, I can't comment on which unit is doing what right now.
Große-Kemper, mein Name ist Spiegel, guten Tag.
Großkemper,
2 Fragen, eine
Spiegel.
Verständnisfrage an Herrn Fleiss.
2 questions. You said searches in various areas in North Rhine-Westphalia or across Germany. We are looking in the entire Federal Republic of Germany. Obviously, I cannot comment where exactly these searches are taking place. And a second question, during this conversation between the 15-year-old and the alleged perpetrator, where they're talking about cutting somebody's throat or anything along these lines, I would not want to comment on that at this stage. Krause, Rheinische Post. One question regarding where the alleged perpetrator went and where he escaped. At the moment, we do not want to comment on the potential escape routes. I would like to come back to the description of the alleged perpetrator. More than 30 witnesses have observed the offense. One witness confronted the perpetrators. There must be a basic description, and that must be a working hypothesis. It's 18 hours after the event, and he's still at large. So your interest must be to have as many witnesses as possible to come forward. Why are you so restrictive when it comes to a description? Because there's so many witnesses that would have given you any details.
Also ich glaube, wir haben sehr viele Zeugen, natürlich.
We do have many witnesses, of course.
Wichtige Aufgabe der Ermittler ist es jetzt natürlich,
the important task for the detectives is to look at the various descriptions, because the descriptions vary. So we need to superimpose them to try and find what are the main features of the alleged perpetrator. Nothing would be worse than issuing a description now, which could then lead to people looking for this person, and then later on we realize that the description wasn't the right one. So please let the detectives do their work, and as soon as we have facts, or as soon as we have more information, we will come back to you. Allegedly, a second person was detained. Is that correct? At the moment, I cannot confirm that a second person has been detained. You talked about the description of the perpetrator, but why aren't you saying anything about the 15-year-old? Obviously, he has been detained. You have arrested him, so you could describe him, because that might give an indication to other potential witnesses. We do not comment on people under age. The age is 15. We can confirm that, but we cannot give you any more information than that.
Gut, dann würden wir noch mal nach rechts gehen.
Boch für das Solinger Tageblatt.
Was Solinger Tageblatt.
Das Ereignis von gestern Abend für die Sicherheit kommender
What does it mean for the safety of future events, the security at future events?
Also, ich hatte das gerade schon mal versucht darzustellen.
I mentioned it briefly. Obviously, we will make sure there are more police officers present. We have informed all the colleagues, made them aware of the potential risks. Obviously, you can never guarantee 100% safety when it comes to public events, but our setup is good. Our officers have been informed, and we would like to ask the citizens, if you notice anything, please get in touch, and also if you know anything about the offense yesterday, please get in touch with the portal that I mentioned earlier.
Hallo, Charlotte Großer, Radio ASG.
Charlotte Großer, Radio ASG. What does it mean for the citizens of Solingen?
dürfen sie noch rausgehen?
people
Also
don't know
tatsächlich
whether they
kursierte auch
should
mal eine
still
Zeit
go
lang
out or not.
ja, eine
And
Meldung. Die Polizei hätte gesagt, man soll sich vorsichtig verhalten in der Innenstadt.
some
Ist
people
das
heard that the
aktuell
police said
so?
people should be careful in the city center. Is that the case? What is your advice for the people in Solingen?
Also ich glaube, wir haben das in unseren einleitenden
Well,
Worten natürlich auch schon
I
zum
think
Ausdruck gebracht.
during our
Eine
introduction,
solche Tat
we
macht
already
natürlich
mentioned it.
was, nicht
Such
nur
an
mit mir oder denen, die auf dem Podium
offense,
sitzen, mit allen Menschen,
such an
insbesondere bei uns in
event
den Städten.
obviously affects
Und dass dadurch natürlich ein
everybody.
unglaubliches
And
Unsicherheitsgefühl zunächst
obviously,
einmal
people
da ist.
feel
Die Frage, wie kann so
uncertain,
etwas
and
passieren? Kann
people
so
ask
etwas
themselves,
in
how
Zukunft
can
wieder
this happen?
passieren? Kann
Could
es
it happen
überall
again in
passieren?
future?
Diese
Could it
Frage
happen to
stellt sich,
me?
glaube ich, heute
And I
fast
think
jeder mehr oder
almost everybody
minder.
will ask him or
Für uns
herself this
entscheidend
question
oder aus
today.
polizeilicher Sicht
As far
ist
as we
entscheidend
are
immer das,
concerned,
was wir an Gefahrenanalysen tatsächlich
we
auch
need to
guten
carry out
Gewissens
a risk
erkennen können und
analysis,
tatsächlich auch
and
propagieren können.
based
Und
on
es
that
ist
we
mitnichten
can
so,
give out
dass eine
advice,
solche einzelne
and
schreckliche Tat,
such
und sie ist tatsächlich ja
a
zunächst einmal auch bei
horrendous
uns im
deed,
Bereich Wuppertal-Remscheid-Solingen eine
an
Einzeltat, dass daraus
single deed, and
hochzurechnen
it is a
ist, dass
single
so
deed at
etwas
the
immer
moment,
und
and we
überall
cannot
passieren wird.
extrapolate that
Kann
means it
ja,
will
aber es
happen
wird nicht
anywhere.
passieren.
It could
Und
happen,
insofern muss
but it
jeder
will not happen
auch mit
everywhere
sich
and
das
anywhere.
klar machen und
So obviously,
ausmachen,
you
ob er
need to decide
beispielsweise
for
zu
yourself
Festivitäten geht, ob er zu
whether you would like
Fußballspielen
to
geht, ob
go
er
to a
im
festival or
öffentlichen
a football
Personennahverkehr
match, or be
unterwegs
somewhere
ist.
else in
Aber die
public, use public
Konsequenz, wenn man zu all
transport.
dem Nein sagen würde, wäre ja
But
die, dass man sich
obviously,
zu
if
Hause
you
einschließen müsste.
said
Das
no
können
to
wir
all of
natürlich
these things,
überhaupt
it would
keinem
mean
empfehlen.
that you would
Ganz im
have to lock
Gegenteil.
yourself up at
Umso
home, and
belebter
that
unsere
would not
Straßen,
be
unsere Städte
recommended.
sind,
I think the livelier our
umso
streets and our
sicherer vom
cities
Grundsatz
are,
her
the
sind auch
safer
unsere Städte.
they
Und unsere
are.
Städte sind vom Grundsatz
And
her
our
sicher.
cities
Unsere
are
drei bergischen
basically
Städte gehören
safe.
zu den
Our
sichersten Städten in Nordrhein-Westfalen und darüber
three cities
hinaus.
here in the
Das
neighborhood are
verhindert
amongst the
nicht eine
safest
solche
in
Einzeltat.
North
Das ist völlig
Rhine-Westphalia,
klar.
but it doesn't
Ja.
mean that such
Aber vom
an
Grundsatz her
individual
kann
single
ich nur
deed
sagen, es
can
besteht
happen.
grundsätzlich
But
keine
as far
Sorge,
as
es
we're
bestehen keine
concerned,
Hinweise
there
darauf,
is no
dass unter
reason for
Umständen
concern. There
solcherlei
is no
Taten
information
in
that
nächster Zeit oder
these
wie auch immer
kind of
in Solingen, in
things,
Remscheid oder
these
Wuppertal
kind of
passieren
acts
könnten.
Bei
would
den Meldungen ging es
happen
dabei
again in
konkret halt
Solingen
darum,
or
dass der Täter noch
Remscheid
auf
or
der Flucht ist
Wuppertal.
und die jetzt einfach
Well,
nicht
obviously,
haben
people are
rauskriegen
concerned that
tatsächlich.
the perpetrator is still at
Und ich hätte
large,
noch
and
eine zweite
so
Frage
they're
bezüglich
afraid
der
to leave their
Festnahme.
houses. I
Heute
got a
relativ
second
früh
question
hatten wir
regarding the
schon
people detained.
gemeldet, dass es eine
Early
Festnahme
on
gab,
today,
derjenige
we
aber wahrscheinlich
reported
nicht der
that a
Täter ist. Und gerade
person
eben
was
um
detained,
kurz
but
nach
that this
14 Uhr
person
kam
was
dann noch
probably
eine
not the
Meldung zu einer
perpetrator. And then
Festnahme.
after 2 o'clock,
Ist das
we
die
heard
gleiche
about
Festnahme? Haben sich da irgendwie
another
Nachrichten
person
überlappt
being
oder
detained. Are we
ist das
talking
jetzt doch
about
was
the
anderes?
same person, or are we talking about two different people
Aktuell
that are
kann
being
ich nur eine
detained?
Festnahme
At the
bestätigen.
moment, I can only confirm that one person has been detained.
So, hier vorne bitte nochmal.
Leonie Party von News.de nochmal.
Leni
Eben habe
Party,
ich ja gefragt,
News.de.
ob es
I
Bildmaterial
asked
vom Täter gibt.
earlier
Das haben Sie
whether
verneint.
there are images
Auf
of the
eine Nachfrage
perpetrator. You
von
said
einer
no.
Kollegin haben Sie aber
And then
gesagt, dass das
another
Bildmaterial
colleague asked a question, and you
gezielt
said
auf
that
den
images
Hals untersucht wird.
show
Also gibt es doch
that
Bildmaterial von
the
der
neck
Tat
has
oder
been
wie kann man das
targeted. So
verstehen?
do we have images of the
Also in den
events
sozialen
or
Medien
not?
kann man ein
Well,
Material sichten. Das
we
liegt natürlich auch der
can
Polizei
see
NRW vor und
things
dort wird
in social
wird eine
media,
solche Tat
and
dargestellt, genau die das sind.
material has been
Allerdings
forwarded
eignet
to
sich das
us as
Bildmaterial
well,
nicht zur
but the
Veröffentlichung einer konkreten Person, wo man da
material
konkret
can not
zunehmen
be
kann.
made
Und
public.
eine kurze
The
Nachfrage.
material does
Es
not
gab
show
nämlich
a
Gerüchte, dass es
person
Durchsuchungen
clearly,
in Moscheen
and
gab.
there
Stimmt das?
were rumors that mosques have been searched.
Dazu
Is
kann ich
that
im Moment keine
correct?
Stellung nehmen.
At the moment, I
Dankeschön.
cannot comment on that. Thank you.
So, haben wir jetzt noch Themen, die wir bislang nicht beackert
Any
haben?
other questions?
Ich würde gerne noch mal eine Frage zur
I
Kommunikation
would
mit
like
den Opfern stellen. Wie ist
to
denn die
come
erfolgt? Wie
back
wurden die
to
Familien benachrichtigt?
communication
Wie sind die Leute
with the
tatsächlich vor Ort
victims
gestorben?
and their
Und dann würde ich auch
families.
noch eine
Have people
Anschlussfrage stellen zu einem
died
anderen Thema, und zwar bei den
in the
Durchsuchungen
square?
oder bei den
And
Kontrollen wurden
during
da
the
auch
searches or
Grenzen
during the
kontrolliert. Also
checks,
gucken Sie, wer gerade
did
Deutschland
we
verlässt.
also do border checks? Are you looking at who's leaving Germany at the
Also
moment?
zunächst die polizeiliche
Well,
Betreuung, aber auch sofort die Betreuung durch die Kommune Solingen hat umfangreich erfolgt.
The police force and the city of Solingen look after the victims. Obviously, the protection of the victims is important to us, and the liaison officer has become involved. It is very important that witnesses or potential or people that were potentially harmed are being looked after. Many things are happening here, and when it comes to the investigation as such, and you talked about borders, I cannot comment, but the first part of the question, who has communicated with the families? Was it your liaison officer? Well, usually especially trained police officers go to the families to inform them about any fatalities. And people are especially trained for that. And it's usually the police that goes and informs the relatives. And this is what happened last night. May I ask one more question? You just said there is a video of the events where you can see that people are being stabbed in the neck, but you cannot issue it because you don't have any clear pictures. Well, at the moment, we assume that the video that we have in front of us shows that people are being stabbed in the neck, but obviously we need to look at all the images. So we need to look at the witness statements, and we need to make sure that we put everything together so that we have a clear picture. So was that something that was published in social media, or did people approach you? Well, I would like to come back to social media. So obviously you profit from social media and what you see there. On the other hand, it is a problem if news or if mis or disinformation is being spread. So what would you hope for? Well, I would like to ask all potential witnesses, if you have any video material, please make it available to us via the portal. We can then analyze it properly. Please do not post it on social media because that leads to misinformation. Old video material is being uploaded, AI-generated material is being uploaded, and that leads to more uncertainty. So please use our portal, send it to the police, and do not post it on social media. And Mr. Roll, you said it is an individual, a single deed, but obviously we are talking more about knife crimes. More and more young people are carrying knives. What is your view, or is it not the case that more and more people are carrying knives? Obviously, it is an issue we need to look at, but it's not an issue for today. This is an extreme case that we had yesterday, and it has not really that much to do with it. So I do not really want to look at that issue right now. And then the gentleman with the beard, and then I think that should be the last question. As far as the city center is concerned, we had a knife attack on New Year's Eve. We had an attack Konrad-Adenauer-Straße and now in the Market Square. So to what extent will you need to look at it, and to what extent will the successor of Ms. Schipanski look into it? Well, saying now that we are one of the safest city, well, people don't really feel safe. They feel anything but safe right now. Well, obviously, the more of these events take place, the more we try and counteract it with enough police presence in order to give people the feeling of safety. And we have developed certain measures so that we have more police officers on the streets. more than in the past, and there are special measures, things that we have already implemented in Solingen over the last months and weeks. Right, that brings us to the end of the questions. Thank you very much for being here. And as mentioned before, you can now talk to the individual speakers in various parts of the room if you would like to have some comments on the camera and microphone. But this is the end.
So that brings to a conclusion that news conference in Wuppertal, Germany, following yesterday's knife attack at a festival in Solingen. The police, the region's president, the public prosecutor, all speaking there and giving us more detail as to what happened during those tragic events. We were told that at 9:37 last night, the first emergency calls were made. The offender had started to stab people near the stage, stabbing them mainly in the neck. The police officer in charge last night described it as a rampage, and half an hour later, police backup was called from right across the region of North Rhine-Westphalia. The federal police in Germany also joined in the search for the person responsible. We now know that 3 people were killed, a 47-year-old and 2 56-year-old people. 8 were injured and are in hospital, 4 of them seriously injured. Now, we did learn that a 15-year-old has been apprehended. He apparently spoke with the attacker shortly before the rampage. He has been charged with not reporting an intended crime. But they did reiterate that they don't have a perpetrator, they don't have a suspect currently in custody, and that a manhunt is still very much underway. The German public prosecutor saying terrorism police are involved. They're not ruling out terrorism. The victims themselves, well, it appears that they were unknown to each other and unknown to the attacker, which makes a terrorism motive perhaps more likely. Let's speak to our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, who's been monitoring that news conference for us. So, Siobhan, a little bit more information, and it's very clear, isn't it, that there is no suspect, that the hunt for the perpetrator continues, and also they're not ruling out a terror motive.
Yes, I think this news conference was fascinating for what it confirmed, but actually what it didn't confirm. So I'm just going to go through again what the various people told us, starting with the officer from Düsseldorf police who was leading the operation last night. Now, he said that they were searching properties, looking across the state, but also involving federal police, so not suggesting that the manhunt could be stuck just here, but using federal forces as well to check if there's any connections to anyone outside the state now, confirming that 3 people who died were a 67-year-old man, a 56-year-old man and a 56-year-old woman, also saying 8 still in hospital, still being treated for injuries. 4 of them at the moment were serious, but underlining the fact that this crime has affected everyone who was at the festival last night, and many people dealing with the mental consequences of having witnessed such a ruthless and bloody attack. Now, he then updated us to talk about an arrest and said that in the early hours of the morning, a 15-year-old was detained. Now, what they were keen to point out is they do not seem to believe at this point that that person is the perpetrator. They are looking at the possibility that this 15-year-old was potentially seen by 2 witnesses talking to someone who could be the alleged perpetrator in the run-up to that attack, but they underlined that he has not been charged at this point with anything to do with carrying out the attack itself. At the moment, he said that they assume there's one perpetrator, but they are following leads. They're keeping an open mind, and they asked again for the public to pass on any information, saying that they had got some video from the scene, but there weren't police videos being taken there. They didn't have a lot of surveillance cameras being taken there. So they're asking again for people who are at the festival to hand over any videos, any photos that they have. And then we heard from that anti-terrorism chief, who underlined, as you said, that interesting fact that they do not have a suspect, very clear on that. They do not have a motive, but they can't rule out terrorism. And that was purely, in one sense, because of the fact that they can't understand why this crime has taken place. There wasn't a clear link between the people who are attacked, which would maybe push them in the direction of a different motive. And that's why terrorism is still potentially on the table. And that is also why they're still talking to their federal counterparts as well. And they said, should they get more concrete information about this definitely being a terror attack, they would then hand that investigation over to the federal authorities. Now, the question and answer really recapped quite a lot of that information. But what was interesting was one of the officers was asked, should people be frightened? Shouldn't they go outside? And he said, you know, there is a risk, but you have to live your life. So you have to decide your own boundaries, but you can't stay inside the whole time. So essentially, to recap, what we know is a 15-year-old has been detained, is being questioned possibly over having a conversation with potentially an alleged perpetrator before the attack, that a suspect hasn't been found, that there's no confirmed motive, and it seems that that manhunt is still ongoing.
OK, Siobhan, thank you very much for that update. As you can see there, one person has been detained after that attack, but a manhunt does continue. Siobhan Robbins, our Europe correspondent there for us. Stay with us on Sky News. Coming up after the break, we'll have the latest from Sicily after prosecutors say they are opening a manslaughter investigation into the deaths of 7 people in the sinking of a yacht last week.